Okay, so this is the first lesson I'm going to record for this class. I'm going to try and have those record done before you study the chapter and you can do the homework. And then when we're in class, we can just concentrate on doing the activities. So what is this class about? Well, this class is about investigation. This class is about observation, is about different type of evidence, how to surveil a crime scene, and we're going to concentrate after that every chapter on one specific evidence. But we need to start at the beginning, which means you start with observation. That's the first chapter, so observation. All right, so in this chapter, we're going to look at, we're going to define observation, what happens in your brain when you observe, the factors that might influence that, and those slides are on my list for you to keep, but I want to go over that. So that's the way we're going to teach that this year. It's going to be kind of a flip classroom. I'm going to do my the lessons, the lectures are going to be done from here. Either in my office or the comfort of my home with some nice African art in the back on the wall here. Afro art. Looks quite nice. Which I remove when I get my house assessed. If someone can tell me why, gets 5 more points. Gets 2 points in my in the first quiz. If you can tell me why did I remove all the art in my house before I got my house assessed? Question. Okay, so 2 points. All right, so a forensic investigator, someone like you in this class, but someone it's right, true. All right. Someone who will investigate a crime scene, who will investigate clues and evidence. It's an investigator, and that investigator must be able to clearly observe, interpret, and report. So we're going to start with observation. Okay, we're going to start with observation first. All right, so this picture, we're going to talk about crime scene in the next chapter, but you see how they separate the crime scene in grid is to make sure that you're able to observe with detail. All right, so that it's not just like you look at a crime scene and you start going everywhere. You need to observe every inch of that crime scene with detail. That's why they're separating in grid, but we will talk about this a bit more in the next in a later chapter on crime scene. So there's something interesting happening when you observe. Okay, there's filters in your brain. Okay, your brain filters information because if our senses were getting all the information from your surroundings, you would go crazy. Okay, you would go crazy. And what happens is your brain filters, right? So right now I'm in my living room, I'm looking, there's so much information I could go in my head that would drive me crazy. So my brain, what it's doing is that it's concentrating on what I pay attention to. So now I'm looking at my PS5, so I'm paying attention to my PS5. So I'm filtering all the rest, right? Of the information that's coming. And information is not necessarily just the eyes, it's also the other senses, also hearing, it's also smelling, okay? So that's the first filter, is concentration on what we pay attention to. Then there's another filter, which is perception, okay? Then now you perceive something in a certain way, okay? All right, and then another filter, is added, then you have what you call the short-term memory, and then the last filter is to the long-term memory. But you see, you'll never be able, and when you want to observe something, you need those filters. Okay, those filters will apply automatically, but you need them to be able to make good observations. So yes, your brain will selectively take in information to make sure you don't go crazy. All right. So you apply filter, of course, unconsciously. Okay. So paying attention requires a conscious effort. Okay. So there's a difference between looking at something and observing something. All right. Because when you observe, you have to pay attention and then you look at the details. All right. Perception. The problem with perception, first of all, it's limited and it's faulty, okay, and often not always reflecting of reality, okay, and that's a problem that's been always been present, and there's a problem in our society now. Perception can make the difference between a true observation and a false observation. Okay. For example, here in this case, you see the police is showing mug books eyewitness, and perception comes into play. You know, if someone on that mugshot looks probably more, or I was about to say more scarier, that's a double, I can don't speak English well, but if someone looks scarier than the other one on the picture, then what happens is that there's a good chance that that might be the percentage of that scarier picture being chosen as as an offender might be higher than the others. Okay, and so that happens, and then of course you can add the race, you can add height, as someone taller will look scarier than someone that's shorter. And of course you can add the race after that. Okay, so eyewitness is an important type of evidence in forensic science, but also is the most dangerous one. Okay, because it observation of an eyewitness, right? There's a lot of things that will vary. Okay, the level of interest of the person who's looking, if that person is under stress, if that person is focused or not, or if there are a lot of distraction around. As I said, right, sometimes you don't want information overload, but if there's a lot of distraction, that's really what happens. You cannot focus, you cannot apply those filters that will help you observe, and you're not observing well, okay, because of all the distractions happening around you. Prejudices, personal belief, motives, right? Prejudice and personal belief, right? There's countless stories of that. Okay, there's countless stories of that. How many times I get out the house, it's 10 o'clock, I'm going to run before I go to bed. I run, and all of a sudden, police car slows down. This officer was going on, and the way says, nah, everything's all right. I'm just going to call off someone suspicious running around the neighborhood. Prejudice, personal belief. Personal belief of the black man running at 10 in a neighborhood that's usually white is a danger, So 2 years ago, it happened a lot. Okay, it's just because I kept running, and that people know me. So now the cops say, "Hey, how are you?" And then people are nice now. They leave bottles of water so I can drink. I mean, nice people in the neighborhood. But prejudices at first, black men running super. So that your perception is different. Okay, so that's very important. Motives. Okay, any lapse in time since the event. So the farther away you are from the event that you're observing, the less accurate your observation is going to be, because you don't remember. You remember less and less. And not only you remember less and less, and sometimes what happens is what, the way something happened, that over the time it changes in your mind. Okay, so your brain will change some aspects of the account. Okay, so because eyewitness based on prejudice, personal belief, I would even say racial discrimination. I put a lot of people in jail that were not supposed to. There's a project in 1992 called the Innocence Project, created by Barry Scheck from the Cardozo School of Law here in New York, who used DNA to examine post-conviction cases to people who were just found guilty just based on eyewitness and observation. Okay, so this is why we start the class with eyewitness, because after that we're going to look at other types of we're going to look at evidence and and looking at science and how we use facts, we use um, factual evidence, okay, that can be irrefutable. Okay, that's why we start with our witness, and it's for to make you realize that you need more to convict, or to, I shouldn't say convict, because the forensic investigator, it's not about convicting. It's the forensic investigator. The only thing is that his job is to rely on evidence to a crime scene. Okay, and in this case, we start with a type of evidence that are eyewitness. There are so many cases of people in prison who have been convicted only based on eye observation, okay, and they are innocent, and that Innocence Project is created for that. Now I can ask you, what's the percentage in term of color of those people? I don't want to say. You Google it, you'll figure it out. Okay. I don't want to make this class social justice, but a lot of those things will happen from time to time. Okay. It's just that I don't want to make this like you have enough social justice classes, you have enough exposure about issues, and then you can make your own decision about this. Is and how to make a world more just. Do you go liberal? Do you go conservative? It's up to you. But I don't want to make this class like that. But there's issues like this that will rise up from time to time. And the Innocence Project was created to make sure that it's those cases are reviewed and overturned. Okay, faulty eyewitnesses are 87% of wrongful conviction. So 87% of the time of wrongful conviction is because of a faulty eyewitness identification. Okay, so starts all the way from Emmett Till until today. All right. So that was the first lesson. Okay. So this is chapter 1O. Why O is because it's going to be in your orange textbook. And you have a copy of the chapter on my LS. Okay. So I will post the homework for you to answer the questions from that. We'll talk a bit more about that in class, but your first homework will be to finish the question. I can show you if I can. Will be, if you look at the chapters, this is a chapter, so I scanned it. All right, so the chapter review. So that's gonna be your first homework of the year, is to answer the questions 1 to 14 of chapter 1 review. Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm still there. Yeah, it's weird. Let's stop that.